everyone. Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
It's Jake Ciely.
Opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
Who is that guy?
Your mama. You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy. Please of the range.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you ducks. It is All in Fantasy, Tales of the Ranks. Yes, over on FTN Network, all the good podcast places that you can find. Just so you know, we are going to continue to give you the idea at the top of how to win things. Yes, right, Meanie? Win fantasy memberships over at FTN. 3 levels, the all-in one. Of course, we got to give away an all-in package. 2nd level, 3rd level, so forth. But also, as I promised before, if you guys can, here's what you have to do. Subscribe, rate, review, all the good stuff. You know how to do it. We've done this before. We're doing this again, just a reminder. If you're new, the reason we're doing it is because iTunes totally the bed with our old podcast. We have to start fresh. But that's what we're doing. So if we get inside the top 10 of our rankings, it only has to be like one day. Like if we just hit the top 10, it's not like, we have to stay inside the top 10. We're not taking down the footballers or anything like that. But if we get to the top 10, I'll give away a copy of Madden over for the Xbox or maybe PS5. I got to find out. It depends on who wins.
PS5.
PS5. No, Xbox. Better. I actually was already playing college football. As you know, I was playing it before ahead of time. I'll talk about that later. People don't want to hear that. We want to get to this stuff. But real quick, this is how you win. Subscribe on Apple. You can subscribe anywhere. That definitely helps. But the whole point of trying to get the eyes back on us again is Apple. So subscribe on Apple. Rate and review. If you give us 3 stars, great, you still reviewed us. If you give us 5, that gives you a second entry. Yes, we want good reviews. We want people to come back to us. And you guys usually give 5s anyway, so we appreciate it. Those are 3 entries right there. It's 1, 2, 3. 3 is the 5th entry. And then you get an extra 2 if you just tweet about the show. Like, hey, man, this show is awesome. Hey, Jake is awesome. Meanie sucks. Or vice versa.
Yes.
Whatever it might be. But all you have to do also, I need screenshots, so proof, so I can get your entries together. You can potentially get 5 entries, send them over to Ciely at The Athletic. With all that out of the way, I'm going to talk about college football real quick. I was so pissed off, in case you didn't see my tweet. I'm trying to build up ODU. Obviously, went to ODU, and I'm in South Carolina, big time possible win here. Road game in South Carolina. I can't stop. So to be fair, one thing on college football, I'm like all over the place right now. One thing on college football is you can actually pick the moments you want as the coaching dynasty. You can play only offense. You can play only defense. You can only play the moments. I put that in quote. I only play offense because I'm not very good on defense anyway. Right. So I let them play defense. Their defense isn't stopping anything. ODU is like
no chance.
South Carolina is like 7, just putting points up on the board. So I went for 2 twice and got both. So I'm up 37-35, and I decided to play defense for their final drive, and I'm doing an okay job. I actually forced 4th down, and they're going for a long field goal. It was like a 48-yarder. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to do this. I put the controller down. I'm like, I'm not screwing around with this. Like, I'm not touching it. I'm not going to be aggressive. There's a good chance he misses it anyway. When's the last time you remember blocking a field goal in a Madden game anyway, this being college football still? It misses wide right by a good chunk and short, like complete major whiff. Flag on the field. Roughing the effing kicker.
This is what I hear happens quite a bit actually in the game. I've yet to play it.
See, Fox just said so as we're doing this. Our producer said running to the kicker is the worst thing in the game. Apparently, and I got a couple tweets. People are saying they have to change the sliders and everything like that. That's unbelievable. Kickers are the worst thing to begin with. And you add that to them. Like, this is why. Why are you making them so fragile? Anyway, so I lost that game. Whether or not I continue that dynasty will be ready to be seen, but we're going to continue, how's that for a transition, today, talking, if you've been listening to the past couple of shows, we're looking at 2023 and if players can repeat or retreat, because these are stars from 2023, to see if they will do the same again in 2024 or take a step back. Following that, we're going to be doing bonus life or game over, the busts from 2023, John Dotson, and if they can rebound this year. I also just took John Dotson in the charity league. we're back in on Jahan Dotson, but you also got to admit 13th round. Like, why not? Right?
Yeah, it's easy to be
like,
in on
you
him
can't
this year.
hate me for that, right?
No, you
Get off
can't.
the Jahan Dotson train. It's 13th round. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to quarterback first, Manny.
Okay.
And the one off the top is the Jerry Jones quarterback, who Jerry Jones wants to wait for every shoe in existence to drop before he does anything with this team. Hasn't given Dak Prescott a contract, hasn't given CeeDee Lamb a contract, watches the contracts continue to roll through, but that doesn't really matter for fantasy. What matters is that Dak is going to be back out there. It's going to be thrown to CeeDee Lamb again. Essentially, the same roster offensively outside of the backfield. Just Zeke coming back. Dowdle is back. Dowdle, I think, is a sneaky sleeper as his own, but we're not talking about that. The question is, can Dak repeat 2023? Because he needs to repeat that passing side of things to be a top 5/7, basically that second tier of quarterback behind the elites of the elites, the Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. In that second tier is where he was last year in points per game and overall. To do it again, I go back to, again, he has to pass. He's not a big runner, and he's even less of a runner than he was back in early in his career, where all he did was score 5 rushing touchdowns every single year. Do you think it repeats? Because we've already drawn the comparison to somebody else we're talking about today on this show. What do you think? Are you in and out on Dak repeating? I'll even give you top 8. That's all I want from him. Top 8, does he repeat?
Yeah, I say he could have a top 8 season. Absolutely, right? Quarterback, 3 in fantasy points per game, just ahead of Lamar Jackson last year. The reason I think that he could, even though I do think that the Cowboys could be a mess this year, there's a lot of ways that it could go south for them. And you said it off the top, like Dak needs a contract, CD needs a contract, Micah Parsons needs a contract. They didn't do anything in the backfield. Like the running game could just be awful this season. But if you look at 2023 and you look at 2021, it's very similar seasons. 4,400 passing yards, 4,500 passing yards, a 68.8% completion rate, a 69.5% completion rate, 37-10 touchdown interception ratio. Last year, 36-9 touchdown interception ratio. Ran for 146 yards, had a touchdown. Last year ran for 242 yards, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, it's not like last year is the best season we've ever seen from Dak. He just did something that he pretty much did 2 years ago. The one thing I will say on top of it is the schedule is tougher. The schedule is tougher this year. They have a first place schedule. They open up on the road in Cleveland. I think they play Baltimore early on in the season as well. So I think that's the best division in football, the AFC North. And Dallas is going to get those opponents. There's some tough road games for the Cowboys as well. If you look back at the last 3 or 4 years, Dak the splits aren't as significant as Jared Goff, but they're there. They're very noticeable. They beat. There's a reason they've won 10 straight home playoff games, about averaging like 40 points. Like, they beat up on bad teams at home. That's kind of the way the schedule has fallen for them. But I think it's going to be tougher this year. I think it's going to be more competitive, but I've seen enough from Jake Ferguson as a solid number 2 option. Brandon Cooks is a little bit older. I am worried about who could actually be the number 2 wide receiver on the squad, but I'd say top 8 you gave me probably knocks on the door for that. But he's not going to be a top 5 guy again. Not going to be top 3 quarterback again.
I 100% agree, and I think the easy answer was obviously he's not going to repeat that last year's season. And this is, I guess we'll jump right next to the next quarterback. Jump to the next quarterback for the guy that I've said, is similar to him when we said on past shows. But to say top 5, to say top 3, actually, it was obviously going to retreat. That's why I kind of want to give you the top 7 or 8, because I think that's a better window to give you, like, oh, okay, well, he's not obviously that, but he's still top whatever. The funny thing is I actually have him at 9. So I actually have him retreating from top 8. Let me run through these real quick, and then we'll get to the other 2 quarterbacks, and you tell me, maybe you are actually at 9 with me, or would you kick somebody out? So obviously the big 3, Allen, Hurts, Lamar. That's how I go 1, 2, 3. Mahomes at 4. He's my milquetoast quarterback. Like, if you just want to guarantee you get a top 7 quarterback, because last year Mahomes actually wasn't in points per game, outscored by a lot of people. But again, what's his worst? QB 9? Like, that's his absolute god-awful worst, and there's a potential that he gets back to 1 if he's throwing for obviously 50 touchdowns. But that's why it's called milquetoast, because I'm just like, is he really going to be top 3? No, but he's going to be 4 through 9 guaranteed? Yeah, absolutely. So, but right behind him, my quote for SiriusXM was, I'll just take this quarterback, who else we're talking about today, by the way, later for much less value and likely the similar results in fantasy as Jordan Love. Anthony Richardson at 6, Stroud at 7, Burrow at 8, and then Dak. Would you swap Eminem and Dak? If anybody hasn't seen Joe Burrow, then you don't know my reference, but you might want to go check out a picture of him recently.
The real Joe Burrow, please stand up. Yeah, dude's motivated coming into camp. I like it. I dig it.
He pulled the reverse Samson. We talked about that last year. He's pulling the reverse Samson, Meanie.
He is. I have Dak at 10, and I like where you're at. I'm very similar. I thought it was alone on Jordan Love as a top 5 guy. Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Kyler, Joe Burrow's at 9 for me. So Dak is at 10, and Brock is at 11. And you know what? It's really tough. Like, I just feel like I probably, if I'm on the board and Dak and Brock, I'm going away from my rankings. I'm probably just taking Brock Purdy. I think Brock, Dak, Burrow, all 3 of those guys, I believe, are on a tier by themselves. I mean, you can even put CJ Stroud in there. They're all like kind of pocket passers. And I just don't think that there's going to be a lot of running from any of those guys. But no, I'm not moving Dak up. At the end of the day, it does seem like a pretty good target for your last pick for a guy that we think could have a similar season, but not finish as a top 5 quarterback, but just be, put out quarterback 1 numbers basically every week, at least every home game.
So it's interesting. We're going to talk a different name completely, 100%. Not even supposed to be on this show, and not even supposed to be on the Bonus Life show, because he's kind of an anomaly when it comes to this. I didn't put Kyler Murray on either list. Kyler Murray was QB 11, 10 if you throw out Carson Wentz. So QB 10 in points per game. We've seen him better. We've seen him worse. But that's why he kind of fell into this. He's not a really like repeat or retreat because, again, it was a half season and he was only QB 10. Also, he's not a bounce back because the half season was being hurt. It wasn't exactly the team that it looks like this year. The talent was questionable. Trey McBride for a long time was his best option. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen last year. But you bring him up. So all the reports so far have been glowing. We know Kyler's not running like he used to, but he still runs a heck of a lot. Are you buying everything? It sounds like you are. It sounds like you're like, so you're taking Kyler over Dak. You're taking Kyler over Burrow. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Okay. Over Burrow too. I don't know if he can get back to the 21 points per game he averaged. I think that was back-to-back years, but that would put him into that tier 1 conversation. You said he wasn't running as much. It's true. He definitely didn't when he first came back from the knee injury, but down the stretch of the season, I think his last 5 or 6 games, he averaged 35 rushing yards per game. So it's kind of right there. I think he can get to the 30 or 40. You add the alpha, Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe Michael Wilson, and I think this offense will be decent. And Trey McBride, I know you like a little bit more than me. I like the player too. I just don't love the cost, like pick 45. But there's some options there for Kyler. So yeah, I'm in, man. I think the rushing floor puts him just ahead of Joe Burrow. It could be Joe Burrow without Brian Callahan this year and questions in the backfield and no Tyler Boyd. It's just, Jamar Chase, who's holding out at the moment for a contract, expecting to play T. Higgins. And then again, a very tough division. Like, I have to think about that stuff. Playing Cleveland twice, playing Baltimore twice, playing Pittsburgh twice, like that stuff. That's why, honestly, I put, even though it's kind of the same tier of Stroud to Purdy, that's why he fits in, behind Kyler and behind Stroud and certainly behind Love.
Okay. I don't hate it. And we are going to talk Love, but he was originally up next, but I already promised and said we're going to the quarterback. We've been comparing Dak. At least I have been. We'll see if you agree. Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud, my boy, my Texans. Love CJ Stroud. Everybody does at this point. Everybody is finally on the bandwagon. I made jokes for the past 2 years for everybody to jump on. They're on now, man. It's full on. People hanging off the sides, trying to jump on the back, like grabbing people's hands as they drag through the dirt. Everybody's on top of this bandwagon. And I mean specifically, like not just the Texans, because not everybody's changing teams, but in fantasy, people are on CJ Stroud. There's been a little switch atop. We've talked about that at length with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, but he's still top 5. He's now 1 spot behind Richardson, where he was 1 spot in front of him, but on the heels of the big 3. And it comes down to the fact of, was an amazing rookie season, was an amazing player breaking out, and now you add to the fact of where we're headed with C.J. Stroud is adding Stephon Diggs to this offense. So you have Nico Collins, C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell. This team is just set up for success offensively. But I go back to Dak Prescott. C.J. Stroud is not going to run for 500 yards. C.J. Stroud's not going to run for 5 touchdowns. C.J. Stroud, maybe. It will shock everybody he does. But especially Joe Mixon now into the fold. Why would he? That's just not already who he was. So why would you add that dimension to it? Unless, again, you go back to the years with Zeke and Dak, and maybe it comes down to that. And he does get the 5, but the rushing yards still aren't going to be there. He has to do most of it with his arm, which means to knock on that top 3 door, go back to Patrick Mahomes with this one, he has to throw 4,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, potentially 40 touchdowns, because it all has to be on his arm. And it's obviously not that I hate the guy, because I love him with my entire heart. But what's the difference between Dak? None for me. He's Dak Prescott in fantasy. Yeah. Honestly, he's Dak Prescott in a lot of ways. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he is. Again, when you look at last year, it's just the touchdowns were down. So you expect year 2. The film is out there and the tape's out there. Like that, there's something to be said about that too. Adjustments that defenses will make with CJ Stroud, but it's going to be a pass happy offense. I know your projections and our projections at FTN have him near the top in all like attempts and completions, and we have him number 1 in passing yards. But you're right, he's going to have to throw. If you think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback, he's going to have to throw for probably 4,500 yards, 4,300 yards plus. And you're right, 40 passing touchdowns. Like he had, 23 last year?
Well, here,
I know he missed a little bit of time, but
I have him as number 2 in projected yards. Right behind, not right behind, but I have him 200 behind Patrick Mahomes. I have Patrick Mahomes for 48-41 and CJ Stroud's at 46-54, and he's number 2, just ahead of Tua. This is what the problem is, though. I have him for 46-54, 31 touchdowns passing, 158, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Maybe that's low, but add 2 and you can do the simple math. Sure. But point is, right now, as of right now, just doing projections and projected fantasy points, he's actually QB 8. In front of him is Allen Hurts, Lamar. They actually check in as 1, 2, 3 in the projections, which is always fun to see when it works out like that. Mahomes at 4. Actually, the 4 check in with my projections and my ranks. I love that. 5 is Anthony Richardson. Wait, that's the same too. No, Anthony Richardson's 1 too high. Love is too low. Love is actually all the way down at 10. To give you an idea of where projections and rankings will differ. Again, a lot of nuance comes into it. And there's not a huge gap. To give everybody a real quick, if you haven't downloaded it over The Athletic, the difference between Anthony Richardson at 5 and Jordan Love at 10 is 20 fantasy points. That can skew. I mean, that's barely over a point per game. So anyway, Daniels at 6 because of the rushing. Dak is actually at 7. And then CJ Stroud is at 8, and they're actually separated by 2 fantasy points. To give you an idea. Yeah,
we have I agree with your projections a little bit more than ours. Ours are a little bit more conservative, but we have CJ Stroud at 5 behind Mahomes. Like you, Allen Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes, CJ Stroud, and we have CJ for 4,200 passing yards and 28 passing touchdowns. So fairly low on that number. Dak checks in as quarterback 6, just behind CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow, Kyler, and Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. And again, like Jordan Love and Brock Purdy, Jordan Love may be similar to you, the projections here, but I'm really buying the second half of last season. So I have him higher in my rankings, but yeah, it's like the exercise is interesting.
Minor retreat again.
Yeah, like for CJ, I think like similar. What you saw is what you're gonna get. Maybe a touch higher ceiling games because of the addition of Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell healthy the whole time. So, I mean, I think he's getting overdrafted slightly just because
he's reheat because he's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
not repeating or retreating. He's just reheating.
I mean, the tier is really long. Like I could see him having a very similar season as Dak. I could see him have a very similar season as Purdy and Love, and I just feel like, why am I taking CJ Stroud? Pick 70 when I can get the other guys pick 100. So
let's talk about one of the other guys.
Yeah.
The third quarterback in repeat or retreat is Jordan Love. We are both really high on Jordan Love, and maybe the projections and all the factors that go into it. I don't know. Like, again, some of it is data that's automatically pulled. By the way, do you alternate data and data? Like sometimes I say data, sometimes I say that, is it like pecans and pecans? I'll say pecan pie, but if somebody has a handful of them, I'll say pecans.
Oh, wow. No, I'm never pecans, and I'm always data.
How would you ever go caramel or caramel? Or does that alternate too?
It's caramel for me. But I think I have
because
maybe said caramel, like caramel.
It's caramel. There's an extra A in there. You can't just eliminate letters and be like, although the English language does that anyway.
Yeah.
So who am I to say? Anyway, all right. Jordan Love or Jordan Love, if you go with whatever English is. It's interesting because we're both in on him. And to go back to what my entire point to start this was with the projections is the projections don't have him throwing for mid 4,000s. 4,300, 32 touchdowns, pretty good, 220 and 2 on the ground. But all those factors, it's slightly fewer than Stroud and Burrow throwing 45, 4,600 and Dak. 32 is right in line with the touchdowns, the rushing game. So really, if you look at it, Jordan Love, 319.9 in projections. Well, guess what? You go up to Dak Prescott, he's 326.4. So it's nitpicky. It's obviously like one touchdown, a few more passing yards, the difference. But I think what this is saying is we are in on the repeat and potential even more. Like if I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like the conversations we've had so far is that if we're talking Dak, if we're talking Stroud, Burrow, this entire tier, and we throw Love into the mix, Burrow should be Burrow. Stroud should be Stroud. Dak should be Dak. Love should be Love. But if he eliminates that downturn last year and that adjustment, and now you have this entire crew, many heading into their second season, some heading into their third, of what was arguably the deepest passing game depth chart, and not the best, deepest, I think Love has the highest ceiling. And that's why I would take him at 5 in front of all these guys, including Anthony Richardson. Now, Anthony Richardson, if he played 17 games, and I don't like to project injuries, and I'm not projecting injuries in my projections, I just feel like that's part of it too, and I trust Love more. If you want to nitpick that one, that's fine. That's why I only talked about the other 3. So if we're talking about the pure passers, did I speak into your mind properly, or did I put words there that don't exist?
No, you did. Yeah, you spoke properly there. We're on the same page when it comes to Jordan Love. Anthony Richardson is certainly appealing to me, but he is probably the riskiest pick at the quarterback position. You know, considering he's now moved into.
If you told me he listened
65.
to Robert Griffin and decided not to run like Cam Newton or Josh Allen, I would be 50 more percent in on Anthony Richardson. He refuses not run like them or to run like them. And that's my like, again, I'm not predicting injuries, but when you're that size and refuse to run smart, that's my issue.
And Shane Steichen said there's going to be no limitations. It's going to be like the same as last year to start the season. And I just think that's a mistake, right? Like,
not done, but he's getting hurt.
Yeah, I am a little concerned about that. Like, he's not a big body. He's pretty skinny, really. As a quarterback taking those shots in the NFL, he's going to have to learn to adjust. But as for Love, yeah, man, I just think there's a couple factors too. Like I believe in the talent. I believe in a quarterback too, like him just, sitting behind and watching for the past couple of years. And I think Matt LaFleur's offense is more suited for Jordan Love, like things that we seen last year in the offense that Aaron Rodgers just couldn't pull off or didn't want to pull off. Then you mix in the fact that this was the youngest wide receiver tight end room in all of football. And I expect not just Love to learn as year 2 as a starter and learn the playbook, but more familiar. Like this time last year, there was what are we going to get from Jordan Love? It's like his first time is getting first team reps with all these weapons. And, Jaden Reed's new to him and Christian Watson, all these guys were new to him. And now he's more familiar. You expect the wide receiver and the tight end room to grow as well. A lot of those guys are in year 2, year 3. Romeo Doubs is the veteran there. So there's just a lot of reasons to be optimistic about Love and this offense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And for one thing, real quick, because I know this is going to happen for anybody that's out there listening, I just want to be clear, the weight of Anthony Richardson is a lot here. It's I'm doing here because we used to do video all the time. Here, upper body. He is 6'4", and I know people are going to be like, he's 240. There's not a lot of it in the legs, and that's the injuries I'm talking about. And so for everybody out there, he's actually heavier than C.J. Stroud. He's also taller than C.J. Stroud. Yeah. But his frame is kind of more what we're talking about before people think I just want to clarify.
Yeah, given the height, mix the frame in with the 6'4" build, right? Pop the shoulder.
I don't think Cam was that much heavier than him. but Cam had more going through that lower half.
The lower half of Cam was really, absolutely. When you look at the two quarterbacks, that's the difference between the two. Is the lower half, Cam was extremely.
Because we're always concerned about the shoulders if they get whacked in it when they get I mean, hell, Carson Wentz in the head. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks go down with shoulders all the time. Like, I'm just worried about those legs getting taken out. So Dak, we're basically slightly lower. Stroud, slightly, but probably exactly the same, which isn't a problem. And Love, slightly up. So very, very slightly here. And then we're going to jump into tight ends next in a second.
Yeah, before we do that, we have a new sponsor here on this show that we want to give some love to, and it's the biggest pro football contests. They're back in Vegas, Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. We've talked about it before, I think this time last year. They're now up to a record 16 million in guaranteed prizes, and there's two ways to win, and guess what? There's no rake. So Circa Survivor contestants, you select one team each week, no point spread. Just got to pick the winner, which is fantastic. Last the longest to win it all with 10 million guaranteed. With Circa Millions, you make 5 picks against the spread each week for your share of 6 million guaranteed. So to enter, you have enter in Nevada. You can play from anywhere though, and to do so, you visit circasports.com for all the details. So you have the Survivor contest in there as well, and then you have the spread picks each week as well. You pick 5 against the spread for your chance to win up to 10 million guaranteed for the Survivor and 6 million guaranteed for the spread picks. So again, check out Circa Sports and do so circasports.com.
I'm so mad. I'm in a giant one that I play in every single year. You know this. And I had my best season. Actually, technically my second best season, but my best season playing that one ever, all the way down to week 14, which usually at that point, you're like,
be over.
I won. Yeah. No, all the way down to week 14 with 3 other people. 2 of us get knocked out. And those 2 other jabronis somehow made it. They went all the way through week 17 and they didn't pick, like, let me ask you this, B. And I know we're friends, but pretend we're not. Pretend we don't know each other. We're just in this Survivor contest together. And you and I both make it to week 15. Only you and me. It's only you and me. And there's a way for us to contact because your emails are listed. So we don't know each other. But I email you and I say, hey, this system doesn't give us the option to split a very, very large prize. We can't split 50-50. The system, because we're playing on one person, has to win unless it goes through the entire season through week 17 and somehow we both do. That's the only way to do it. So we have to guarantee we both get all 3 next games. And I said to you, instead, how about you and I agree to pick the same team every single week for the next 3 weeks, so we're both either continuing or eliminated. Well, obviously, you have to find 3 teams that we both haven't picked. But if I offered that to you, would you take that and split the pot? This almost feels like something that's on Netflix, like a reality show. Like, do you trust me to do it, and do I trust you to do it? But I think the thought process, forget the fact of whether or not you trust me. I just want to know, like, would you split with 3 weeks to go, or would you go for 4? I mean, you're going for first or nothing, and I'm saying, like, this is a pretty significant pool. So first or nothing, or would you just take the split and agree to do it?
I would take the split. I'm not greedy. I don't know. I don't know if I'd reach out to do it, but it would cross my mind. And if somebody reached out to me, and that's happened before, in larger fantasy football leagues where somebody has reached out to me. I know there was one baseball dynasty where the only guy I knew was Jay Felicio, and I joined the league and I cruised all year, and I was in the finals against somebody that I thought I was going to beat, and he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to split, and I said, I'll split with you. Fine. I'm a new guy here. Everybody knows everybody. I didn't want to be that new guy that just, takes all the money. And so I took the money, ended up winning the league, and the league just folded the next year. Maybe they're doing another league without me, but I wasn't invited. But I was fine with the split. He reached out to me. I was like, cool, absolutely. It's a large sum. Why not one of us, both of us get something? So yeah. I would do it. Why not? If it was just like, a handful of bucks, I probably
$250.
wouldn't. Yeah, but if we're talking like a large sum here,
4 figures,
absolutely. Like let's both, get a piece of this, and maybe you could do some sort of 60-40. I probably would go. Why don't
that's
we do 60-40?
Actually, I was gonna say that I had that happen in my home league one year. Somebody reached out and they're like, "Hey, do you want to just split it? We're in the championship game." And I was like, "How about we do 40-40, and then the winner gets that leftover 20%.
That's cool.
So there's still still something at play. But then, like I said, then it comes into the whole trust act. I thought about that because the first 2 game, or wait, 13. No, I got eliminated in week 13 because they had 4 games to go. Because the first 2 weeks they picked the same teams, and I was like, well, They're doing what I was thinking. Like, and then week 17. So it was week 14. I'm thinking fantasy in my head, and I'm forgetting the bye to week 18. So I was out in week 14. So 15 and 16, they picked the same. And then 17, they picked different. And I was like, whoa, okay, like maybe not. And then week 18, they picked the same. They ended up splitting anyway. They actually both made it through. Another 4 games. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. Like,
it was a weird year last year, though. I felt like there wasn't a ton of upsets early on. And
there wasn't, but I can't imagine having a perfect Survivor season.
No, me neither. That's pretty impressive. That'll never happen again.
You know what else was impressive?
Oh, here we go.
Transitions.
Yes.
Sam LaPorta's rookie season. Sam LaPorta was tight end 1. Fantasy points per game. He was tight end 2, barely behind. 0.1 behind Travis. Actually, I think he was 3. It was 3 if you include Hawkinson. So he wasn't even first in points per game. All that being said, he finished number 1. Kelsey took the game off. First time, all that time that he didn't reach 1,000. But the question here now is Sam LaPorta, can he repeat? And what I'm going to put on Sam LaPorta as a repeat is not as forgiving as Dak Prescott. Can he repeat, Chris Meany, as the 1 or 2 quarterback or tight end? Not quarterback, tight end. That's the only option. You can't finish 3. 3 is a retreat. Is he finishing first or second? Only Sam LaPorta.
Yeah, I'm going to say he can. I think the touchdowns could come down. Like, I don't know if he's going to score double digits again. You know, he only had 15 red zone targets, which was 4th at the position. But I just think that I believe in the talent. Number 2 option. I believe in the offensive line. Jared Goff is second in the NFL in passing yards over the last 2 years. He's 3rd in touchdowns. You know, we talked at length multiple times about the 14 games inside the dome, which benefits
I don't
Goff.
know if you've heard about the schedule yet.
Yeah. I think everybody that's a football fan or a loose football fan has heard about Detroit's schedule and Jared Goff playing inside a dome. We always bring it up anyways on this show and our serious show. But I'd say yeah, he can. Like, just like I believe in Kelsey being right there knocking on the door as well. But, you know, getting a little bit older, you mentioned the game off last year, quote unquote, load management, playing fewer snaps, keep him fresh for the ultimate prize. But I just don't think anybody else is going to put up Sam LaPorta numbers. And that's part of it. I just feel like he's a 1 or 2, I'd say he repeats.
Are you saying 1 though? When you say nobody else can put up his numbers, are you saying
I got
1?
him at 1.
Really? I'm going back to Kelsey. I still have Kelsey 1 for 1 more. Basically, you know what? And I know technically because it is for the full season. You know, you to take out the champ, you can't be 1 until you take out the champ. In points per game, he didn't. And that's why I'll say, like, I'm still... Now, it's 1 and 2, but I do have Sam LaPorta in front of Mark Andrews. And interesting enough, the projections do have Kelsey, LaPorta, Andrews in my top 3, mostly because I have Kelsey playing 17 games. Maybe 16 because they don't need to play week 18. But I think that's, you have 2 games off of Kelsey last year, not just 1. Don't forget that. So
yeah, it's the first game of the season, I do believe.
Yeah. So... Again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm happy with them as 1 or 2. I completely agree with you. I think those are the definitive 1 and 2. Andrews kind of in that conversation. But Andrews is a different Andrews at this point. Like, I'm not even just talking health. Like, do they need Andrews to get 130 targets? With Zay Flowers, I'll even throw in Bateman. But the backfield, Isaiah Likely now getting more love as he finally should at tight end, but the problem is he got buried behind one of the better tight ends in the league.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you 100%. So let's talk about one that maybe we can disagree on. But wait, I got to pull it up. I forgot who to sext because I was ready for number 3. And I forgot.
Well, you get it teed up. One thing I will just say about Kelsey is that life should be easier for him this year, just given the playmakers that they acquired through the draft and through free agency. Like, they were just a screen passing team. Like Mahomes, you look at Mahomes now, he doesn't take a lot of shots down the field. Well, he tried. Dudes didn't catch the ball for him. But now having the explosiveness over the top, tougher to bracket and double Kelsey. I do believe that. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I was so excited to just poo. Is it poo number 3? But we'll say, hold on a sec. Number 2. Poo-poo number 2. That wasn't even intentional. Evan Engram was the second one up on the list. Yeah. I think everybody, I think the consensus is he's going to repeat because they're like, oh, Calvin Ridley's gone. We are, and I think maybe even more than you, I am, but like, I love Brian Thomas. Love Brian Thomas. And I've said it immediately when they drafted him till the months after till today, I think Brian Thomas is going to put up Calvin Ridley's 2023 season, and I think it might even be better, but I think that's a good barometer for what he can do in the NFL, and I think it might be more consistent what Calvin Ridley was. We know the Zay Jones factor and all that type of stuff, but this is kind of like a different offense. To be clear, there's no reason Evan Engram shouldn't still get his share. Like, even if Brian Thomas is Calvin Ridley, Evan Engram should still get his share with Trevor Lawrence and what happened last year. And now Christian Kirk is exactly Christian Kirk again. Like, those two should be the same guys. It's really Ridley for Thomas as the swap. That being said, like, does the history of Evan Engram give you a little bit pause? Or is this an easy repeat? I kind of feel like it's almost just he's going to be himself again.
Yeah, I think that, there's some talk in Jacksonville and using him down the field a little bit more in a very short ADOT. But yeah, I don't care either. I think, him leading the NFL in targets again is certainly something that could happen.
Well, that's a retreat. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, like at the tight end position, I mean.
Okay.
I could see it. I could see him when I look at some of these tight ends. And I just feel like when I'm looking at targets, I could see him again, like with Hawkinson out. I could say the top three guys in terms of volume would probably be Kelsey, LaPorta, and Engram. I could say that with confidence. I could see, maybe he's not 20 catches more than the next closest guy. Maybe it comes down a touch, but I could see the volume and the targets being there. The one difference how can he get to the next level? Isn't it touchdowns? Like he had 9 red zone targets, and I think he had 6 end zone targets. And then I hear a lot of people saying, well, Calvin Ridley's gone and he led the NFL in end zone targets. But you mentioned Brian Thomas Jr., and I agree with you. And then Gabe Davis, too, is a big end zone target guy. So I don't feel like, hey, Ridley's gone. There's more end zone and red zone targets for Evan Engram. Maybe he'll catch a couple more touchdowns and he'll be inside the top 5 of the tight end position. Maybe he'll knock on the door of being in that tier that we discussed to start. I just don't feel like that's going to be the case. So I'd say a bit of a downtick, maybe fewer targets, fewer catches, but still, again, at the same time, given the position, I would say he's inside the top 3 or top 5 in overall volume. And, he's a pretty good discount at tight end 7-ish.
Would you say 125 targets is a fair number this year instead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That actually puts him just behind Kelsey in targets for tight ends.
20 fewer. Yeah, that's right there in the Hawkinson, Kelsey, LaPorta range. Yeah. I think that's probably fair. Like, given all the weapons there in Jacksonville too, it's kind of surprising that he did get as much volume as he did. There was a lot of check down games for him last year. There was a lot.
Let me throw out an either or real quick before we get to the last one or the last two. Evan Engram or Kyle Pitts if you're on the draft board.
I'm going to take the upside in Pitts. Yeah, I'm going to take the upside in Pitts.
I'm only asking because the projections have Engram barely in front of Pitts.
Barely in front of him. I think there's
but
a higher
that's with 115 targets for Pitts. Like, that could easily be an extra 10 in his pocket.
For sure. I consider it a 1A, 1B between him and Drake London. I think those guys are going to be pretty similar in terms of volume. Okay. I think London's got a higher ceiling, but I think the volume is there for Pitts.
Yes, we'll agree. Well, 2 more to go, and then we're done with this show and on to the next. There is no way, the song, No Chance in Hell. I'm just putting it out there right now. There is no way on earth, in hell, wherever you want to go, in the multiverse, hanging out with Deadpool and Wolverine on Earth 1000, whatever it was, 10,000, I don't even care. It's not happening. David Njoku is not repeating. I'm just putting that out there right now. And I don't think that's kind of contrarian. I think a lot of people are on that because he was top 5, 6 in points per game and overall. The breakout was finally there, and everybody knows that a lot of it was with Joe Flacco. I don't think they understand how much because he's still being drafted as a top 10 tight end. And, Meanie, I'm going to go through my tight ends for you right now. If I stopped at 10, I would not have mentioned David Njoku's name yet. That's how much I think he's retreating. That's how far back I think he's falling with Deshaun Watson. That's how far back I think he deserves to be without Joe Flacco, who's not even on this team as the backup anymore. So it's not like he can have a saving grace of going back to Joe Flacco at any time. David Njoku, that was fun. 1 year thing.
Yeah, and I have him at 10. Like, I'd rather have him than Goddard and Dalton Schultz.
I wouldn't. We've had that conversation.
Yeah,
I am
just
in
think-
on Goddard with the change in coordinator, with Kellen Moore, with the pre-snap motion, which I actually think Meany actually brought this up 2 years ago and said there was a stretch there where it looked like Devonta Smith could actually be better than A.J. Brown for fantasy purposes. I think that's back in play.
Yeah.
I think that I like A.J. Brown where he's going, but I like Devonta Smith a hell of a lot more where he's going. And I think there's more of a ceiling where they could actually even possibly finish back-to-back. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But I think a third person is going to be involved more consistently this time with Kellen Moore. And if you look at the wide receivers, I don't think it's any of them. I think it's Goddard. I think we're going to get Goddard back to the Goddard seasons we knew before Devonta Smith or an A.J. Brown, like that kind of mix when he was the number 2. I'm not saying he's going to be the number 2, but all being said, that's why I would easily, I think Goddard breaks a tier for me. And if I'm waiting and thinking of Njoku with Frymuth and Bowers and Musgrave, I'm thinking double-digit rounds.
Yeah, for me personally, I want, I got Ferguson at 9. I want one of those 9. Like, that's the end. After that, it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some inconsistency there. I see the point in Goddard. I'd like to see it too, right? Guys are moving around the formation a little bit. What we've seen from Goddard is just it's been very similar the past few years. It's like, where's the touchdown upside? Maybe a little bit more volume. He seems to get hurt. But as for Njoku, love the player, right? I mean, I think that's part of why people are still kind of in. They see that, he is a mismatch, and he's a weapon, but there's a lot going on there in Cleveland. I'm uncertain about Deshaun Watson as a quarterback. They bring in Jerry Jeudy, who's going to give more than Elijah Moore. Still have Amari Cooper is disrespected. When Chubb comes back, maybe they go back to being a run-first squad. They just threw the football so much with Joe Flacco, and Flacco peppered him. So you look at the splits tools. We brought it up a couple times over at FTN Fantasy. Very significant, the difference between him with Watson and him with Flacco. So, yeah, I'm with you. Again, got him at 10, want one of those top 9 guys. And if TJ Hawkinson was ready to go week 1, I mean, he wouldn't even be inside my top 10.
Quick sidebar, where are you taking TJ Hawkinson right now?
I know. I haven't taken any of him
yet.
And Dane, our co-host in Sirius, he really loves him and he wants to take him. But in order to do so, you have to take 2 tight ends. I'm just not really into that. If you play in a league where there's some sort of IR spot and you can put him on there, it's a little bit easier. But do you want to hold another tight end? Like, what would you do at that point with TJ Hawkinson? You drafting a top 10 tight end and then Hawkinson? I don't think that's the right call. Then you're stuck with 2 top tight ends.
He's very passionate.
I'm getting amped up about this because it doesn't make sense to me to do so.
I understand.
Take Fryermuth last.
I'm going to give you the argument. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you.
Anyways, whatever you do, it's wrong.
I like passionate meanie. We don't get enough passionate meanie. Well, I will say it makes it a lot easier if you have IR spots, because now you're also kind of drafting that free pickup. You draft him and then you just immediately put him on IR, pick somebody else off of the waiver, so you actually got a free draft pick. Congratulations, free lottery ticket. A lot easier. That all being said, even with that being easier, which I think this is a good comparison to make, I'm bringing up that charity league because it's best ball. So best ball kind of has a similarity to the IR spot because there's going to be better potential value. I still took him as the 13th tight end in the 9th round. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being a high-end tight end 2 cost as the 9th round, which you're already drafting for your bench. I'm okay with that and drafting the second tight end later just to fill in for a little bit. Even in redraft, I'll take a stab on Mike Gesicki. I'll take a stab on, Luke Musgrave completely making Tucker Kraft irrelevant. Maybe not happen, but I'll take a stab on somebody like that because I can replace him with somebody who's going to get me 7-8 points, take a flyer. Hopefully they score a touchdown. But at that cost, I'm willing to make that investment. Now, if he was going tight end 7-8 in the 7th, 8th round, I know that's only 1 round difference for 8th, but I was thinking more the 7-8 turn. But point being, a round and a half, 2 rounds higher, inside the top 10 tight ends, that's what I'm not doing. Do you think he needs to go further for you, or do you think that's an okay cost given an IR spot?
I think it's okay, but for me in the 9th round, I'd rather take another wide receiver, a running back to stash.
Well, here, I'll tell you the wide receivers that went off right after him. How about that? It actually, interesting, was mostly running backs in the next round and a half. That was a very running back, like Singletary, Moss, Eckler, Spears, those are the running backs that are go off. And I think depending on your roster construction, there's a case to be made for all of those over Hawkinson. But here's the wide receivers. Brandon Cooks, Jameson, Shaheed, Myers, Polk, Dobbs. Those are the tight ends.
I'm going
wide receivers.
I'm going
You're
wide
all of them?
receiver all day. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I already had 4 wide receivers at that point, if that helps you.
It does a bit, but I think you did it the right way. Like that's the way to do it. Like drafting a top 10 tight end and then taking Hawkinson, I just think it's kind of silly, right? You're not going to want to start both of them, and then when Hawkinson's ready to go, you're going to feel weird about the other guy that you have. You play that game.
You don't want to put him on
maybe
your flex.
maybe there's Hawkinson has a setback or something. Plus, I don't think that he's going to have the same type of season. He's just not going to have the same type of volume that he had with Kirk Cousins, who is among the leaders in accuracy. So I just think the offense in general is going to take a bit of a step back. So I love Hawkinson, the player. This time last year, my bold take was tight end 1. Like I really was all in on him. I just feel like with the injury and the quarterback change, I'm just out. But that's the way to do it, Jake. You're right. Take him, you stash him if you can. Then, I'll throw a K-Dot and Tyler Conklin, some other guys that you could just play that game for the first few weeks. But I'm not confident that he's going to have the same type of season that he did last year with Kirk Cousins. And plus, I don't think a lot of people play with IR spots. I don't like it myself.
I think the majority. I think more do than don't. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
As we get out of here, by the way, real quick, this team is either going to be amazing in best ball, or I'm going to be so far behind the 8 ball that it's going to be impossible, because this team has Marquise Brown, Nick Chubb, TJ Hawkinson, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Jahan Dotson. I
dig it. There's some high ceiling guys there that could work
out.
It could not. Yeah.
You get a first place prize for your charity or nothing. I'm playing for first. I'm not going to be like, woohoo, I finished 3rd. Oh,
that's how I think everybody should play best ball, right? Shoot for upside, maximum potential, get a little bit weird, do things that you wouldn't do in your home leagues, like maybe draft a couple tight ends.
All right, I think this one's going to be quick too. Dalton Schultz, that was fun. You done. Yep. It was fun. You done. Stefan Diggs comes in. You want to talk about a tight end situation not being relevant. If you thought the tight end situation wasn't relevant with the Bengals, I don't see how I appreciate Dalton Schultz. I've had Dalton Schultz in fantasy. I had him last year in quite a few leagues. But even last year, Dalton Schultz only had 88 targets. And I know he didn't play the full season, but 88 target. You want to know what my projections have him for right now? 62. You're not getting involved, buddy. I'm sorry.
You're not getting involved, buddy. I'm sorry. Listen, if Dalton Schultz has, oh man, that's good. If Dalton Schultz has a top 10 tight end season, then somebody else is busting, whether it's Nico Collins, Diggs, or Tank Dell. I think that
somebody else got hurt. Both.
Both. Yeah. Somebody went away. And maybe somebody just, maybe Diggs is washed, or, Nico takes a step back or something like that. But I'd say if we're predicting something to happen, it's Dalton Schultz being the odd man out here with the addition of Stefan Diggs. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't even know where. I think I got him tight end 14 or something. Not even interested in a best ball format is the only way I would take him.
You want to know how far he's for me? He's tight end 19. For me, because I'd rather take a chance on Musgrave, on Hunter Henry, because hey, it's Jacoby Brissett, and it's the offensive a lot of rookies and maybe somebody pops, but Taysom Hill. I'll take a chance on Taysom Hill.
I agree with that.
Just because, why not?
I should move Taysom up a little bit more. 20 plus red zone rushing attempts, and then Clint Kubiak again this week. Just going to use him all over the field, catching passes, end arounds, rushing. He's going to line up under center as the quarterback. So he's just, I don't know. He's probably going to finish as a top 20 tight end. He's going to have probably more consistency than Dalton Schultz because he'll touch the ball.
You know who I'm considering taking a shot on over him? You'll have to wait till next show. Ha! Look at you see that? Because next show, bonus life or game over. Now we're going the other direction. We're going to 2023 busts, and if they can bounce back, bonus life, or it's game over. You're done, buddy. It is All in Fantasy at Chris Meany. Make sure you follow him there over the work at FTN Network. Make sure you check all that out. We will be giving away 3 packages to FTN, potentially a Madden game if you can get us inside the top 10. A reminder: subscribe, rate, review, screenshots of all that stuff. Tweet about it too, and you get 5 potential entries over Ciely at The Athletic is where you want to send them.com, and we'll be talking to you very soon. Have a good afternoon, everybody. I don't know why I said it like that.
See you later, buddy.